It's Friday, February 24th. Let's talk PlayStation. So there are two pretty blatant big news stories that have happened this past week. One being that the press is now receiving review copies of the Nintendo Switch hardware, so that's all well and good. But on the Sony side of things, because that's kind of what we do here, Horizon Zero Dawn's embargo is up, and now we have some reviews. And we don't typically talk about when a game gets reviewed, but it's kind of worth noting that the game is reviewing very, very well, which is awesome. I've always talked about how my only little fear there is that the game was probably a little bit shallow, but it sounds like it's kind of in the sweet spot, where it's not... You know, it's not Skyrim level of, like, putting 300 plus hours into it, but it's certainly more than, let's say, you know, some sort of more shallow open world game, like maybe Infamous or something. Like, Infamous is an open world game, sure, but you can't spend 60, 70 hours with it. And it looks like that's kind of what Horizon's sort of falling into. And obviously there's a number of other great things that people are discussing about it. We won't really spend too much time talking about that. Although I will say, and I guarantee you this time, because I know people are still asking for that Uncharted 4 review, it will still come at some point. But I'm guaranteeing that I will have a Horizon Zero Dawn review in a timely manner. And you gotta be lenient with timely, because it is a RPG and it will take 60, 70 hours, however long it takes me to be comfortable reviewing it. So expect a review maybe, you know, a week and a half to 2 weeks after the game comes out. But I don't think you need me telling you. It looks like the game's going to be pretty awesome, so we should all go out and grab a copy and play it, because it's a brand new IP, too, which is awesome. I'm glad Guerrilla finally has found a good little place for making a really good game, but, of course, I'll still reserve my own judgment for when we play it on the 27th. So, another thing that happened recently, and we were just talking about Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy because we just got the release date of June 30th, so just recently, the PlayStation Ireland Twitter account was responding to a fan request, and PlayStation Ireland was talking about how the game is... exclusive to PlayStation 4. That tweet was quickly deleted and followed up with a tweet talking about how the game is actually coming first to PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Pro. Now, we have never actually sort of discussed the legitimacy of if the game was completely exclusive to PS4 or not. Initially, I guess it was kind of a given, but at the same time, you can't really say it was a given because Sony, I think, would be pretty straightforward with how it is. Like, usually when Sony has an exclusive and it's truly an exclusive, they always like to be pretty forward about it and mentioning how it's coming exclusively to PlayStation 4. And I'm sure you can find a couple of messages and imagery online or something, or an interview where they are saying that it is exclusive to PS4. But now we actually have a official representative saying it's coming first to PlayStation 4. And when you say it's coming first, quite clear that that means the game is a timed exclusive. Another interesting thing, I think it was the Ask PlayStation Twitter account, that one tweeted after the PlayStation Ireland thing, that one tweeted that the game is exclusive to PS4, but they also said that it was being made by Sony themselves, which makes me believe that it was some sort of intern or some guy running that account that doesn't know what he's doing. You gotta kind of also take those things into consideration when you're talking about a big corporation like Sony that handles multiple social media accounts and things of that nature. It's very complex. It's very easy for words to get misconstrued, especially when it comes to the exclusivity of a video game. We know Microsoft has had a big blunder with this a lot whenever they had their timed exclusive games. But anyway, Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy is a timed exclusive. I'll be blatant with you. I'll be straight up with you right now. The fact that PlayStation Ireland said that and they deleted the previous tweet, there's pretty much no doubt in my mind now the game has to be a timed exclusive. Which, yeah, I mean, well, for one, this isn't necessarily a bad thing because Sony is doing fine right now. They don't really need Crash Bandicoot to be exclusive. People like to get really stupid and emotional about this shit and go, oh no, the first 3 Crash games should stay exclusive to PlayStation. It just doesn't feel right. It's just, that kind of shit is ridiculously silly. So, just gonna put an end to that right now. But, we have to keep in mind, this is still Activision's property. They like to make money. We were always kind of assuming that maybe Sony had some sort of partnership there, and obviously the partnership here is that they had secured it as a timed exclusive. So more than likely this game is going to hit Xbox One and PC. Probably after a year, who knows? Usually it seems pretty typical that it's a year term when it comes to timed exclusives. It's always a little bit annoying because for people that do want to play this game that don't have a PS4, they have to wait an extra year. It's straight up dumb, but this is what these big hardware manufacturers do, and that's also kind of what we always talk about, which is it does kind of actually always promote some healthy competition and keeps them sort of fighting for your dollar, and that's something you do want. You don't want one console manufacturer to run the game because then you're going to be screwed left and right in terms of pricing and deals and all that sort of nonsense. So, but it remains to be seen. But as of right now, I'm telling you, it's probably a timed exclusive. PlayStation Ireland finally kind of, let that cat out of the bag. And it's kind of surprising that we haven't, it's kind of surprising that it didn't come out sooner. Like, you kind of would have figured right away this would be cleared up, but there you go. Now, this last news story is very interesting, as I'm sure you're all well aware of at this point. We haven't talked about one of these in a while, but a new Sony patent has recently surfaced online. It's very important to also note that it was actually filed back in 2015. That's important because, well, if you look at it, it looks pretty damn similar, doesn't it? So, yeah, it looks like a Nintendo Switch. A big screen. You got what appears to be like a sort of a DualShock designed controller being cut in half, and on the ends of it, the patent doesn't explicitly say that the controllers are detachable or anything like that, but it kind of looks like it. Looks like it's designed like that, or maybe we just kind of have that sort of mindset right now because we know what the Switch is. But this was filed back in 2015. Sure, there were NX rumors back then. People are going to immediately look at this and do a lot of fanboy coverage we're doing today. Jump into the fanboy bullshit. Oh, Sony's copying Nintendo, all that crap, all that garbage. We did a Ryan on Gaming topic about that a long time ago in terms of if companies copy each other and whatnot. And the answer pretty much is yes, but at the same time, no, because they're big multi-billion-dollar corporations that R&D constantly 24/7. Sony has thousands of patents. Same with Nintendo. Same with Microsoft. All working, congruently. There's a ton of ideas that will never see the light of day from all three of these companies. They're constantly thinking about what they want to do for the future. So the fact that this was filed back in 2015 does not surprise me whatsoever. And to be honest, I don't even think this thing's ever going to see the light of day. Same with like the other ridiculous Sony patents that we've seen. We have seen detachable controllers before. We've seen, gloves and other sort of weird contraptions. When the patent is like super outlandish, it's either for something that's way into the future and they want to hold on to that sort of idea and technology, or it's just something that they were toying with and just in case they want to hold on to it, they want to hold on to it. But more than likely, you never see a lot of these products. You probably don't even see just throw a random bullshit number, like 5-10% maybe, you only are the actual amount of products that you actually receive come to market. Especially a big corporation like Sony, Microsoft, or even Nintendo. A lot of that stuff you just never see. And since they all work at it in privacy and years before this sort of stuff becomes publicly available, you can't necessarily say, oh, one's copying the other. Maybe Sony looked at Nintendo and said, oh, they're actually going through with that. Maybe we should, investigate our previous idea that looks pretty similar. Maybe something like that happens. I don't know. I don't work at Sony. I don't work at Nintendo. But don't get into the whole fanboy shit of who copied who. Now, that being, what do I think about the patent? Well, kind of what I just told you. I don't think this is ever going to see the light of day. What's interesting is that Sony did have what appears to be the same idea as Nintendo. And, this kind of goes into a conversation of like when people ask me if Sony's going to do another PlayStation Vita or is Sony ever going to do another handheld, and the company I believe is crazy enough to do it. I think if anybody were to actually try to do it again, it would be Sony. But now I'm kind of like backtracking to that. I don't really think they would do that. I believe kind of funny also. Greg Miller and Colin Moriarty have sort of the same sentiment there, where it's like Sony would probably be stupid enough to do it again. But I think they really have sort of seen, just how hard it was for Vita, and just they probably put a lot of money and investment into that, and they did have a lot of their developers make games for it right away. They put a Killzone out on it, a Resistance, granted it was bad, Uncharted, A Little Big Planet. They funded tons of other little games on it. They did do. It's their fault for it failing, but at the same time, they did put more into it than I think more people give it credit for. It just seems like the market just did not want it. Sure, they could have done a number of things to make it a little bit better, but I think it was one of those situations where the market dictated that they didn't want it. They probably could have sold a lot more Vitas if they had done a lot better, but I just don't think there was any room or place for Vita, which is disappointing. I still love Vita, and surprisingly, Vita's still being supported. If this thing were to actually come to market, maybe that's how Sony kind of sees it, the same way that Nintendo sees it. Just start sort of doing a hybrid of the two, where it's a console and, a portable device. Easily connect to the TV, easily take it on the go. Maybe that's Sony's idea of a future for making portable consoles, or portable handheld, gaming systems relevant in today's market, which is to make them TV consoles as well. Instead of having it dedicated to being a handheld, maybe that's their way of trying to keep it alive in 2017 and 2018 and beyond. It's an interesting topic, but I don't think we'll ever actually see this thing come out. But if we do, that if this thing actually comes to fruition, that would be something else. Those are some of the news stories I want to talk about with you guys this week. Oh man, I'm actually really excited now to play Horizon. If you haven't noticed, if you're my friend on PSN actually, then you'll see that the only damn thing on my PSN activity is either Netflix, Hulu, or Amazon. Just haven't really been feeling it lately, you know? Sometimes you just get in this mood where you don't want to play anything and you want to just sort of focus on other things or sort of relax or take it easy. And that usually goes into like how, you know, I'll admit it, I get winter blues pretty bad because I live in Western New York, so there's always like heavy snow and shit. Although this winter hasn't been too bad, but it just kind of gets lame when it's like, it's like 5 o'clock and then it gets super dark out and shit. I hate that shit. So I'm kind of pumped because this is a game now I'm like legitimately excited to sit down and play. So I'm kind of super pumped about that. Anyway, that concludes this week's episode of Let's Talk PlayStation. I'm Ryan Benecki, and thank you all so much for talking with me. And I'll see you all beautiful people next Friday.